Hello and good morning. How's everybody doing today? This is Rich Harshaw, and we're here for one of our many tactical marketing calls this month. You're going to notice a theme this month and in the next couple of months of websites. We're going to be talking about SEO today. Well, let me back up. Not about websites, about internet marketing. So we're going to be talking about search engine optimization today. We're going to be talking about pay-per-click marketing tomorrow on a special webinar that will be hosted by Chad Miller from Monopolize Your Marketplace. Go Chad. And next Tuesday will be the rescheduled webinar from last week, the one that got postponed on planning your website. So all of those things working together. There will also be a few other topics on internet marketing that I'll introduce to you actually as we go through today. In fact, today's webinar is going to have a lot more emphasis on social marketing than I thought it would when I started out, but nevertheless, it'll be in there. So this is going to be a good, couple weeks, couple months as we get into this. Now, as you see on the screen, the title of today's webinar is Search Engine Optimization: 4.5 Things You Can Do Without Being a Nerd. And I am not a nerd. When it comes to technology and those kinds of things, I just don't really understand them, don't really care to understand them, and prefer to have other people that understand those kinds of things. I have a working knowledge of search engine optimization and pay-per-click and so forth. But if you ask me to get in there and do the nitty-gritty work, I just simply couldn't do it. But I've got people that can do it. Now, here's what we're going to talk about today. Search engine optimization, I think for a lot of people, is one of those things that I don't know anything about it, I don't know how to do it, I don't understand it, so you get somebody else to do it, and that's okay, and you hire people that I call nerds to do it. Nerd is somebody that understands technology and stuff like that. What we're going to talk about today are things that you can do without being a nerd or in conjunction with your nerd, or things that maybe you could actually do better than your nerd that that's going to give you some power in the search engine optimization world. Now, I think everybody's aware of search engine optimization as a general topic, what it is, but for those who are a little bit less initiated, we're simply talking about things that you can do to have your website rank higher in Google and other search engines so that when people go to search for stuff, they find you. Pretty simple, right? So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the webinar, and let's talk about the nerd alert, what we're going to cover. Some of the basics of SEO. I'll give you a quick overview of stuff only nerds can do. If you're a nerd and you want to do it, great, but I'm not going to talk about it other than to mention it. And then we'll talk about stuff the rest of us can do in terms of content, keywords, links, social media, and let's go from there. So let's talk about the SEO pyramid. This is how you want to build the foundation of your search engine optimization. The foundation is always going to be your content on your website. And again, this is by way of preview, so we'll talk about all of this in detail as we get into this topic and start rolling, okay? So content is number one. Then we're going to talk about keywords. That's the second part of the pyramid. If you've got great keywords but poor content, that may be a short-term solution. Obviously, you don't have to pick one or the other. We want to use all of these optimally. The third component of the SEO pyramid is links, getting other websites to link to your website. And again, we'll talk about all of this in plenty of detail as we go through this. And then finally, social media, social networking is the final part of the SEO pyramid. So we're going to talk about some of these non-nerd things that you can do, starting with content, then into keywords, then into links, and then into social media. Okay, well, we got to get going because we got a lot of stuff to cover. Here's some of the stuff that you should leave to the nerds, okay? Again, if you know how to do this stuff, or if you think this is stuff that non-nerds should know how to do, whatever, this is not stuff that I recommend you get too involved in. So number one, setting up the back end of your site, programming the site itself, analytics. Some of you may want to look at analytics and study analytics, but setting it up, you don't need to worry about that. Meta tags, header tags, and here's just a quick definition of what that is. Code enhancements that identify the way a website is constructed. As such, they serve as roadmaps for the search engine robots. They are generally unseen by visitors and have no real bearing on the relevancy of your text. Nevertheless, they help search engine spiders, bots, find their way around the website. They are generally written in HTML, which in itself is usually beyond most website owners, i.e. nerd junk, okay? And then leave other technical crap you don't understand to the nerds, okay? That being said, there are plenty of things that you can do as a non-nerd. So let's talk about the first one. Again, there was 4 basic things it did say at the beginning of the webinar that there was 4.5, the half of a thing you can do, are just really a few tips and tricks I'll show you at the very, very end, okay? Not that we're going to get into a lot of detail on them, but just a quick list. So let's talk about content. SEO foundation should be built on great content. Your content will be indexed by the search engines as relevant information. You don't have to try to fool the search engine with fake content. This is something that a lot of companies are out there trying to do. They're trying to fake content. They want to put things into their websites that make the search engines think that there's interesting, relevant information in there. Well, here's a better plan. How about actually have interesting, relevant content? And I'm going to show you an interesting way to find topics to write about and to put on your website in just a minute. But at the heart and soul of your website should be interesting, relevant content that the search engines then index. There's two different terms you got to understand here. Term number one is indexing. Term number two is ranking. Okay, so what we're talking about is creating content that will be indexed by the search engines. They're going to send their little spider bots out into your website, and it's going to take a snapshot of what's on there, and it's going to run it through an algorithm that Google, for example, uses to say, okay, here's what this web page is about, here's what's relevant on this page, and this is a page that if people search for certain topics, this would be something that's relevant for them. So it's going to index it. Now, ranking is going to be a product of a lot of the different things that we're going to be looking at today and some nerd things that you don't really have any ability to control yourself personally. So want to make sure that the websites, that your website is being indexed as having real information. So here's what my litmus test is. People will want to actually read or watch that content. People want to link to it, and we'll get into the topic of linking in a lot of detail in a few minutes. So we're going to spend just a little bit of time on content and more time on some of the other topics, okay? People want to tweet it, Facebook it. This takes time and effort to produce. No SEO company nerd can pull this off for you. Now, here's what we're talking about. Creating content, becoming a content provider, becoming the wealth, becoming the fountain from whence all knowledge flows when it comes to whatever it is you happen to sell. And this has a lot more to do with just putting together a website that just has, quote unquote, your brochure on it. A website by definition has lots and lots of room. You can put lots and lots of stuff on it. So I'm going to encourage you to put tons of information, and before you ask the question, let me answer it. Well, what do I know what to write about? I'm going to show you an interesting tool in a few minutes called the Wonder Wheel, of all things, that's going to show you some interesting topics that you can start to write about and put information about. Now, if you farm this over to a nerd by definition doesn't know how to write junk. He just knows how to program junk and do weird slide rule kind of stuff. If you get a writer who's a different brand of nerd to actually write stuff for you, that's okay. But this is not something you generally want to leave to a nerd, writing interesting, relevant information in a way that people actually want to read it, right? So this is stuff we don't want nerds to do. Content. Here's the kinds of content you can create. First of all, articles. Remember that people are surfing the web in search of relevant information. Don't make your site a pamphlet. We don't want pamphletware. Keep fresh information about whatever's relevant to your target prospect coming. And again, I will show you the Wonder Wheel in a minute that'll give you some fantastic ideas of things, specific topics that you can write about. And I'll give you some examples, okay? Blog postings. I like to think of a blog posting as an informal article, creative, fun, interesting, observant, relative, and relevant to what? Your industry. Here's what's going to happen. The keywords that are going to be indexed by the search engines are going to be naturally occurring in your articles and blog postings if you're writing about things that are, interesting and relevant to whatever it is you happen to sell. You probably don't want to get into creating a blog about your family vacation for your site that sells kitchen remodeling. That's dumb. But have your own blog separately for your personal stuff, but for your business, we want it to be relevant, okay? Videos. People love videos. You can create them. People visit your site often. I'll give you some ideas for videos because I'm going to talk about videos more in detail later when we get into the topic of social media, Facebook postings, and so forth. So let's keep that idea handy, but let's move on, okay? So this is stuff, again, we don't want the nerds in charge of, okay? No nerds here. Content. What you can do with your content and what not to do. First of all, don't keyword stuff your articles. Keyword stuffing means purposely putting a bunch of keywords in there. Google will notice it. Google is smarter than you. Let's just keep this in mind, okay? Google is smarter than you. Google makes $25 billion a year. You don't. Google knows how to write the rules that govern this entire thing. You follow the rules that govern this entire thing. So understand this loud and clear. Google is a lot smarter than you, and if you start trying to outsmart it and putting things into your website that you think Google wants, Google's going to know that, and it's going to penalize you. You know, Google has the ability to penalize you and say, you know what, I hate you, and shove you down the ranking. So my best recommendation is to play it straight. Play it straight up. Create good content that's real content, that's genuine content, that's relevant content, that's interesting content, so people will want to read it. Don't use word scramblers to create crappy content that you think Google will like. You see these programs out there. Here's what they do. You take an article that you've got, that you've written, you put it into the word scrambler, and it changes it up just a little bit. They'll use a lot of synonyms. So instead of saying not to give anything away, but a good bet would be, it would say not to divulge anything, but a good thing to do would be, and it's just a little bit different, and it can scramble in any number of ways so that you've got basically the same article but written a bunch of different ways, so that Google looks at it and says, oh, well, look at all these articles. That's, again, Google just is going to hate you. Last thing you want is Google hating you. Here's the order of things you don't want hating you in life. Number 1, your wife. Number 2, the IRS. Number 3, any other federal governmental institution. Number 4, Google. Okay, that's a pretty hefty list. And if you're a woman, then it's your husband in number 1, not your wife. Okay. Anyway, so don't copy articles for somewhere else that's plagiarizing. Number 1, that's not good. Number 2, Google doesn't like to find the exact same content here and there. And trust me, it's smart enough to know that if it's here and there, in a different site and a different person's stuff, that it's the same. It knows that. It doesn't like that. Okay? Do add fresh content as often as possible, 2 to 3 times a week at least. 2 to 3 times a week at least. Fresh content. What kind of fresh content? Well, I just told you some of the kinds of fresh content, and in a minute when we talk about the Wonder Wheel, I'll tell you about a way to find interesting topics to write about. Next, do hand your content to your SEO nerd so that they can post it in the most SEO-friendly way. So there are things, header tags and so forth, that need to go onto the pages, and hand that over to your nerd, and your nerd will do it. So content, that's what I'm going to say about content. Let's move on to the next topic, which is keywords. Keywords, we've all heard of keywords. Well, what is a keyword? Well, let's talk about it. You'll need to choose your keywords, then give them to your nerd. Hopefully he'll know what to do with them. Now, your nerd may come to you with keywords and may recommend keywords and may have tools for generating keywords, and that's okay. I'm not saying that nerds can't be in the keyword discussion, but I want you to be in charge of your keyword discussion to an extent also, okay? They might know how to choose keywords, but don't blindly assume that your nerd knows anything, okay? Learn some basic keyword finding methods. You'll be ahead of the pack. Here's just 5 tips, and I think there's actually fewer than 5 tips, but here's some tips. I think there's 3 actually. Keyword tip number 1, focus on phrases. Usually keywords are not keywords, they're key phrases. If you sell vinyl siding, the word vinyl and the word siding are both poor keywords. One's too broad, the word siding, it's going to be too competitive. It's not going to be something that you're going to be able to get a lot of traction on because it's just too broad of a word. The other doesn't describe what you do. It's too broad, the word vinyl. If you put the word vinyl as a keyword, how many different things are vinyl in this world? I mean, really, it's a ton of stuff. So the keyword vinyl is going to do absolutely nothing for you. And this is just a quick primer. You may already know what I'm telling you now, but if you don't, boom, you just learned something. Find phrases that are going to deliver more highly targeted searchers. So tip number 2, use the Wonder Wheel. What's the Wonder Wheel? It's a tool on the Google search results page that helps identify groups of keywords, a visual representation of how Google groups words and how users perceive search terms. This can become the basis of your keyword research, okay? So let's take a quick look. So let's take a snapshot of a Google page. This is the Google results for the search on vinyl siding, like I just talked about. So if you put in vinyl siding, these are the things that are going to come up. Let's see what we've got here. Vinyl siding, get installed by the experts at home Depot, from Sears, like you're going to compete against that. And then you've got some brands here. You've got some stores here. Notice that none of those stores are you. And then you've got Certainteed, which is a manufacturer. This is what you're competing against. If you put things like vinyl siding, your chance of being effective is relatively small. So let's take a look at the Wonder Wheel. What is the Wonder Wheel? Well, if you look up here, we've typed vinyl siding, and down here you'll see something called the Wonder Wheel. Underneath there it says all results, sites with images, Wonder Wheel, related searches, more search tools. So let's take a look at that. Okay, you can just show it to you a little bit bigger on the screen there. Let's take a look at what the Wonder Wheel is. Okay, so if I click on Wonder Wheel like I just did on this screenshot, you will see vinyl siding has, it kind of looks like a wonderful wheel, hence a Wonder Wheel, that has other related search terms as far as Google is concerned. Now, you might say, well, I don't really care what Google thinks. You know what, that's just dumb. That's like saying, I don't care what the IRS thinks, or I don't care what my wife thinks. Why would you utter such nonsensical things in your life? What a waste of time and definitely destructive to your health. Don't say things like that. We do care what Google thinks. Google is really, really important to you. You remember back when there was that big book that you would sit on when you were a kid if you weren't quite tall enough at the table called the Yellow Pages? Yeah, they don't have it anymore, or if they do have it, it's strictly used for sitting on for short children, and now we have this thing called Google. It replaced the Yellow Pages, and it's important. And if it has a Wonder Wheel that says these are what we think are the related terms, you better pay attention. So look what we have here. Vinyl siding, I'm reading at about 11 o'clock there, and then going clockwise. Vinyl shake siding, Alcoa vinyl siding prices, vinyl siding installation, vinyl siding calculator, types of vinyl siding, and vinyl siding colors, okay? So what I can do is I can search in on any one of these. I can say, okay, what if I click on types of vinyl siding? And then the Wonder Wheel is going to expand. Here's what it looks like. So down here at the bottom, you now see the previous Wonder Wheel, and we've got types of vinyl siding, and it has now what? Its own set of associated search terms. Let's take a look. Vinyl log siding, best vinyl siding manufacturers, styles of vinyl siding, types of siding trim, brands of vinyl siding, and pictures of vinyl siding. If I was to click one of those, for instance, styles of vinyl siding, then it would expand the Wonder Wheel even more to ideas of vinyl siding, trends of vinyl siding, and so forth. And you can read through those and see those yourself. And the idea here is that the Wonder Wheel is going to give me phrases that are relevant as far as who is concerned. You? No, not you. Google. And we can know what Google thinks are important and relevant. Now, where do you think Google gets the importance and relevance from to put these things on the Wonder Wheel? Probably from people actually searching those terms. So here's a little tip for you, search engine optimization. You don't have to be a nerd to understand this. If Google finds that certain things are being searched, guess what? You probably want to make sure that those are your keywords that are being searched and looked at. Oh, wait a second, though. This brings us to a problem. Let's see if we can solve it. See, these are non-nerd problems. Get the slide rules and the calculators and all that junk out for the nerds, and let's just use a simple logic problem to figure this out. Okay, if people are searching for ideas of vinyl siding as a specific phrase, and we say, okay, I want people to see ideas of vinyl siding. Okay, well, we'll start cramming that keyword into our website. Let me tell you what a better idea would be. Okay, you remember what the first foundation to your SEO was? Do you remember what it was? Oh, yeah, content. What if we created content about ideas of vinyl siding so that, guess what? When people searched for it, they found actual, real, genuine, interesting, relevant information on ideas of vinyl siding. You see how this works? It's called find out what people are searching for and then create content, assuming it's relevant to what you sell, which in this case it definitely would be, and create articles and blog postings on those things. Because then guess what's going to happen? Google's going to look at those articles, it's going to look at those blog postings, and because they're genuine, because they're real, because they're relevant, because they're interesting, Google's going to, in all of its infinite programmed algorithmic wisdom, know that they're actually good things. And it's going to index it, and not only index it, what's the other word? Rank it high. See how that works? Or you could just say, oh, ideas for vinyl siding, and you could try to cram those on a page that had no relevant content. Google will know it, and it won't do you any good. Oh, See, we get so caught up on Google and all of its tricks. The reality is Google has to have a bunch of tricks to keep jackwagons like most people who are trying to shortcut the system. It tries to keep them out because, see, Google has a very high vested interest in making sure that when John Doe, John Smith, whoever you want to call him, sits down and searches for calico cats or vinyl siding or dog food or a book called Influence or red cups or a Timex triathlete watch, that they find it. Because you know what? Google knows that if you type in something and you find a bunch of crap that isn't what you want, you're going to start using Bing, and you're going to start using Yahoo, and you're going to start using other junk that's not Google, and they're going to lose their place. So trust me, all of these rules that you hear people, oh, Google changes its rules all the time. All of those rules are rules to keep idiots from cheating. They're not rules to keep you with real, genuine content that's relevant and interesting from being indexed and then ranked highly. No. You don't have to worry about that stuff. Now, get your nerd and have him figure out all the fine point details, because there are details and there's stuff you need to know, and it's nerd stuff. But here's what you need to know. Create great content, and this is what I'm hoping you're pulling out of this right now. And I love this idea of this Wonder Wheel, because here's what I'm hoping you're seeing right now. You can create content that's exactly what Google is telling you people want to know about, okay? So, using the Wonder Wheel, use these phrases as your keywords, duh, but also think in terms of content. So, if we go back to the very first Wonder Wheel, here's what we could write content about. Types of vinyl siding, specifically. So think about this. If you sell siding, let's say that you sell James Hardie fiber cement siding, okay? We've got clients that sell that. And in their website, they want to just talk about vinyl. They just want to talk about fiber cement siding. Well, what if they wrote an article about different kinds of vinyl siding? You say, well, they sell fiber cement siding. Well, what if they wrote an article about different types of vinyl siding, got people to that page and said, look, here's the different types. There's type A, type B, type C, type D, and, oh, by the way, there's non-vinyl types like fiber cement. This is called interesting information that people are wanting to look at. How about this? Vinyl siding prices. You say, well, we don't know the prices. People want to know the prices. Why don't you find the prices, tell people the prices, and then Google will index that, and then because you've got the right stuff that people are looking for, guess what? You will rank well, okay? Vinyl shake siding, vinyl siding installation, vinyl siding calculator. These are all relevant terms coming directly from where? The Wonder Wheel. You say, well, I don't know what search terms people are looking for. And you know what? I'm going to tell you this. If you go into one of these keyword tools, and there's a lot of them out there, and I'm not suggesting that they're horrible, but you know what? I looked at some tools as I was preparing for this webinar, and one of the tools generated something like 12,000 keywords. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do with 12,000 keywords? Here's what I want to know. When I type vinyl siding, the very, very basic foundational thing that I sell, what are the associated related searches? There's the gold, okay? All right. Tip 3, geography count. Add local modifiers. Every single town, village, city, and burg in your service area, put it on there so that when people search for vinyl siding in South Lake, Texas, boom, you're going to pop. When people search for vinyl siding installation or whatever the case was, and you have to, of course, customize that for yourself. Think in terms of zip codes as well. Zip codes are going to be sometimes put in by searchers. Like other ideas in the section, this will narrow the quantity of searchers, but it will significantly increase the quality of searchers. That's what we're trying to capitalize on, is quality, okay? So now let's move to the next topic, which is linking. Stuff you can do, okay? And you hear a lot about linking. One of the most critical ways Google determines how important your site is by looking at how many other sites are linking to yours, okay? Now think about this for a minute. If you've got your little website selling, you know, vinyl siding or dog food or marketing consulting service, whatever you sell, how many other people are linking to your site? Well, know this: Google uses algorithms to determine how relevant, important, and trustworthy those links are. So there's linking programs and linking services that create links to your website. But I'm going to show you in a minute a hierarchy of how Google works. Okay. What we don't want to do is fake it till you make it. Again, this is one of those things where instead of saying, well, how can we go out and in the next 30 days get a bunch of links coming to our website, and what can we buy, and who can we pay to do this? You know, go buy those and pay those. Do whatever you want. Get nerds involved. But here's what I want you to look at. How can I get actual, real websites to link to me because, oh, they want their readers to see my website? See, this is a different way of looking at things. This is kind of like the things that we were talking about before with the keywords, okay? The actual keywords, with the content, actual content, with the links, actual links, real links, people that link to you because they want people to see your website, okay? So let's talk about working on building quality links, okay? What Google is looking at, something called link juice. Link juice is a measurement of how legitimate, real, and relevant a link is that's coming into your website, okay? So let's take a look at a few of the categories. Number one, motivation. What was the motivation of the link? Was it an editorial link? Did a news outlet link to your website for some reason? Is it pure? Is it there because that website owner actually wants people to see your website? Or was it a manipulated link? Okay? We want high-quality link juice, not low-quality link juice. I'm going to give you a list on the next slide here in just a minute. That's going to give you, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 different ways to get these links created, okay? So Google is going to look at the motivation for the link. And you say, well, how is Google going to know the motivation to the link? And the answer is Google knows everything. Haven't you learned anything on this webinar so far today? Respect the Google. It knows junk. You say, wow, we're going to go and participate in link sharing. Okay, well, that's fine. But how about actual real links that were motivated by website owners wanting their readers to see your website? Importance. How important are the linking sources? So we've got a website that really, really, really wants their readers to see your website. However, it's a little dinky website that nobody's ever heard of and has a very low ranking itself. And Google's going to look at that and say, well, it's a purely motivated link. However, it's not particularly that big of a deal. Now, let's say that the New York Times or Yahoo or Inc. magazine or the local affiliate for NBC in your town links to your website. Well, Google's going to look at that and say, hey, this is the local NBC affiliate. That's a pretty big deal. And it's not some phony baloney junk link. It's a real link, and it's going to assign that link a lot of juice, okay? Here's another thing, how the link is built. Now, this is a little bit of a nerdy thing, but just bear with me, okay? How the link is built, how relevant is it? And I want you to look at a couple terms here. Keyword is anchor text to the keyword on the targeted page. So here's what that means. How relevant is the site that's linking to your site to the actual page that it's being linked to? So, for instance, let's say that my website is on the topic of marketing, and I've got an article on my website that talks about how to create referrals using MYM marketing techniques. And let's say that Inc. magazine, a very important linking site, has a source, has a motivation of wanting their readers to see my website because they're writing an article on getting referrals. And in their article, it says, hey, for more information about how to generate referrals, see this article on the Monopolize Your Marketplace website called How to Get 77 Referrals in Less Than 24 Hours. And it links over. Well, here's what's going to happen. Google's going to look at that link and say, well, what was the context of the link on the referring site, and what was the context of the stuff that was linked to on the site that was being linked to? And if there seems to be a good fit, then it's going to say, oh, well, this is a high-quality link with a lot of link juice. On the other hand, if it's some phony baloney site, think about some of these websites that you go to. You go to a website, you type it in, and you find out that it's really just a purely linked website. In other words, there's no real content. It's just links, and people are trying to get people to click on those because they're going to get paid a little bit of money from Google, from AdWords. Okay, those are going to be low-quality links. There's no context on that website that's coming over to your website. So here's what we're trying to do, and hopefully you understood that at least a little bit. I know it's a little bit confusing, but here's what we're trying to say. We want real links that are motivated because the website that is placing the link wants their readers to see your website. They're an important website, hopefully, and the link page that it's coming from and the link that it's going to have consistent information, consistent content that Google deems as being relevant. Okay, so let's talk about how to get good links. Good links, not bad links. Good links. This is where we got a picture here of our link with a little angel halo. So the first one is just natural links that just come really without you doing anything. You say, well, how do you get a natural link? Well, I'm going to give you some ways to get links, but there's going to be natural links from companies that just want to link to you. Here's a good one, content licensing. So let's say that you put together an article on how to choose the best brand of vinyl siding, because that's something that Google's Wonder Wheel told us that we wanted to be aware of. Remember that? Okay, great. Now we go out to the local NBC affiliate and we say, hey, we've got this great article that would be useful and relevant in your home improvement section to your readers. And they go, oh, well, that's great. And they take your content, they put it over on their website, and as a payment for that, they have a link from their page over to your website, hopefully to a page that's appropriate and relevant, and you've now got content being licensed over, and a link is created from, hopefully, a relevant, powerful website to yours, okay? Content licensing. Next, link bait, viral content. This is putting something on your website that is so cool, so awesome, that people are just going to naturally want to link to it, okay? Now, let's talk for a minute here. We had a discussion a few weeks ago in our MYM live meeting with somebody who's probably on the call today, Katie from AZ Comp. This is the software support and sales group. And we're talking about social media. We're going to get to social media here in just a minute. I think we'll have time. And we were talking about creating videos, and they created a video that was kind of interesting and cool, and I think we looked at it on a Power Strategy call a couple of weeks ago if you want to go back and review that. And we talked about creating videos that were so outrageous and interesting and fun that people would just want to watch them, okay? And we talked about part of the function of their software is that it eliminates the need to have medical records in paper format for doctors. And we talked about creating a fun set of videos about what doctors could do with their old paper records after they converted over to digital electronic records. And we talked about throwing them off of a large building, or torching them with a flamethrower, throwing them into an airplane propeller, or blending them in a blender, or some other, just as many destruction ways as we could think of. And these are things that people want to watch, right? It's called link bait. Let's put things on our website that have viral value to them so that people go, wow, that's pretty cool, that's pretty funny, that's pretty interesting. And this is called link bait. So that's one way to get a link, is to put some link bait on your website. This is part of the topic we had earlier called good content. Remember that? Badges. Here's what a badge is. Let's say that you are a member of Angie's List, and on your website you put a little badge button that says we are a member of Angie's List, and that links through to Angie's List. Now, that's going to be a good linker for Angie's List. So what you want to think of is, what badges could people be associated with you that they could put on their website that would create a link back to you, okay? So think about that for a minute. Badges. What kind of badges could other companies, other websites put on their websites that would link back to you? Widgets, same kind of thing. Maybe you create a widget that's relevant to your business. So for Monopolize Your Marketplace, we could put a marketing tip of the day widget together. Individuals or companies could put it on their website. For instance, we could have several manufacturers. We do a lot of work in home improvement industry. You probably know that. We could have manufacturers of siding, windows, doors, etc. put our widget on their website, which would then provide a link back to our website, which would then be a great link. Link juice is high, it's a relevant link, and we would get some good search engine optimization ranking because of it. Here's another one, partnerships with suppliers and retailers. So if you can get your company listed on your supplier websites, on retailer websites that carry your products, etc., that link back to your website, those are going to be good quality links. Here's another one, good directories. Better Business Bureau, you're a member, they've got a link to your website. Yelp, you're participating in that, it links back to your website, and so forth. This is something that we're going to talk about in detail on an upcoming webinar. We're going to, in fact, we're going to spend practically an entire webinar on that exact topic, I think in July. Good social media accounts. We'll talk about social media here in just a minute, so I'm going to breeze past that right now. Article contributions. If you contribute an article to other websites, it's kind of the same thing as the content licensing we went through last time. Donations and participations. So you are now a donator, what's the word? You're a donor to the local charity or disease prevention or hospital or something like that, and they put a link on their website back to you, okay? So that's a good link. This is how you get good links. These are things that you can be responsible for as a non-nerd to get happening for your website, okay? Let's talk about directories for a minute. We call directories, often we call them citation sites, Google Places, Yelp, Angie's List, things like that. Some are going to require you to pay some money to be a member, others not. Identify any that are relevant to your industry and register for them. Do it right the first time. It's difficult to change these a lot of times. We're going to do an entire webinar on this later, so I'm going to just breeze past it right now with the preview that we're going to do a webinar on this in July. I'm going to show you how to go to Google Places, set up your site. We're going to talk about getting reviews, how to get customers to fill them out, and those types of things, okay? You may want your nerd to help you set this up, okay? Let's talk about the last thing that you can do. We've talked about 3 things already. We've talked about content. We talked about, what was the second thing we talked about? I've got a mental block all of a sudden. Content, links, that was the third thing. Oh, keywords, then links, now social media, okay? So let's talk about social media. You're, of course, familiar with a lot of the social media sites. We're going to focus in particularly on 2. We're going to focus in on Facebook and Twitter, and also, particularly in a business-to-business environment, you're going to want to spend some time on LinkedIn, okay? So let's talk about this. It's a good idea because it's a way to stay in constant contact with your customers and followers. It's a good way to distribute interesting, relevant information. Guess what? Step 1, content. If you've got good content, this is a good way to get it out. But here's what you need to understand from a social media standpoint. This is a 2-pronged discussion we're going to have right now. One is, why would you want to do it? From a marketing perspective, it's good to get that information out, but also from a search engine optimization, if you start getting viral, people redistributing, retweeting, looking at your stuff on Facebook, this is all going to create links back to your website. Oh, yeah, links back to your website. It's a good way to distribute information. It's a good way to build links, enhance your SEO. So let's talk about Twitter and Facebook. I'm going to talk primarily about Twitter, but everything that I'm going to say is also applicable to Facebook, okay? So why should you tweet? Why should you post? How do you get followers? What to tweet or post and what not to tweet or post, and some quick tips. I'm going to cover this stuff right now. So Twitter, Facebook also, is a way to send short messages to a group of people who choose to follow you. Now, for Facebook, they're going to like you, not follow you. That's the terminology in the protocol. And the advantage to Facebook over Twitter is that you can have longer messages, you can post videos, but Twitter's also good because people tend to follow things mobily in many cases, okay? For business, it's a good way to build relationships with prospects and customers, reduce the emotional space between you and your customers. As you become more intimate with them through Facebook, Twitter, they're going to start to like you more, and you know, then therefore potentially do business with you. Well, let's see if it's worthwhile. So just a quick view here. We're actually out of the habit of tweeting and Facebooking, but we're getting back into it as of this summer. So this is kind of what Twitter looks like. It's got a little post there. You got 140 characters. You can post whatever it is you're doing, and you can see it a little bit bigger. Okay, and this is some of the tweets that we do, typically advertising and marketing related things. which is dumber, Radio Shack is the shack or Pizza Hut is the hut? Well, by replying back with the shack, with Shack, Hut, or both. Does Radio Shack really think they'll be cooler as the shack? How about the suck instead? Seriously, who buys stuff there just trying to be a little bit funny? Okay? And then people can take your tweets and they can respond to them. They can retweet them out to other people. I won't go into this in a lot of detail other than to see, just showing you kind of how it works. You can look this up yourself pretty easily, okay? Who's using Twitter? Individuals use Twitter a lot. Celebrities and athletes. When I say who's using Twitter, who's tweeting? Individuals, celebrities and athletes, people want to follow them. Thought leaders, people want to follow them. Businesses are, it's best for people who are selling information or people with some personality. And this is going to be a big theme here, because here's the problem with social media. If you do it wrong, if you handle it improperly, it's not going to do you any good, because people are not going to read it, you're not going to get the links that you want, and it's just going to be a flop, okay? So if you've got information, that's good. If you're selling information, but if you got a little bit of personality, that's going to go a long way in social media, okay? Because it's easy to stand out if you got just a little bit of personality in what you're saying. So for business tweeting, there's a lot of books and articles about Twitter. My experience is most of them are pretty worthless. Every business is different. You should carefully consider their strategy. Here's some main points to remember when creating tweets and Facebook posts. Number one, make sure you send interesting, relevant content. Number two, make sure you send interesting, relevant content. Number three, make sure you send interesting, relevant content. Number four, I think you get the point, okay? How do you build a following? Well, create an account. We're not going to go into the nuts and bolts of how to do that. If you're not sure how to do that, you don't need a nerd to show you how to do it. You need a teenager to show you how to do it. Put the Facebook, Twitter logos on your and follow information on all of your marketing so people know that they can follow you. If you don't have those logos, just Google it. You'll find them. They're real easy to find. The more people come to your site, the more people who are going to follow you. So we want to push people to your site, and then we want to get them to follow you on Twitter, Facebook, and so forth, okay? How big of a following do you need? The goal is to create a real following, not a big fake number. There was a lot of people, particularly in Twitter early on, that wanted to have big, huge numbers. For some reason, they felt like if they had 1 billion followers or tens or hundreds of thousands or 1 million followers, that would translate into something worthwhile. The reality is, if you have a bunch of followers who are followers in name but not in actually participating and watching what you tweet, it doesn't really help you that much, okay? Johnny Depp had 61,347 followers, but he only had 10 tweets. It was a fake account. Here's a thought process called reciprocal following. People will tell you, oh, well, if I'm following 83,940 people, I've got 80,783 followers. The reality is this is pretty much garbage. If you're following that many people, if you're following 83,000 people, how many of those are you really, truly, actually following? Answer, a small handful. So a lot of times people will go in and they'll follow, and people will follow each other, but with the end of, you get this big list, but nobody's actually truly reading anything. Some people will give you a formula for this, a 2-to-1 ratio. You've got to have 2 followers for every one that you're following. Well, let me tell you about Bill Simmons. He's known as the sports guy on ESPN.com. He follows 93 people, and he's got 1.48 million followers. Why? Because he's got good content. If you've got something worthwhile, then people will follow you. If you don't have something worthwhile, guess what? They won't. Okay, and then what you're going to start to do is get mobile followers, people following you on their phones, getting your tweets via text message, etc. Okay, how do you create content? You have to have interesting content, otherwise people will not follow you. Why would they? Remember, you are most concerned about real followers than the number of Twitter shows for you or Facebook number of people that like you. You want people that are actually, truly, really paying attention to what you're sending out. Make sure you understand who your target is, focus on them, and then ask this question: what kind of information would be interesting, relevant, useful, and timely for them? Okay? Here's some ideas for some content. Well, link to your website or your blog. The whole first foundational pillar of your SEO was your content. Interesting information. Remember that. One thing you can do is you can use a link shortening service like bit.ly to shorten links and track clicks. This is an interesting thing because when you post, first of all, on Twitter particularly, you have very little room. You've got 140 characters. So if you can make your links very short using something like bit.ly, that's going to allow you more space for your actual posts. But then it's also going to track how many people click on it. So that's an interesting way to see how many people are actually truly, really paying attention to what you're posting, okay? Links to other sites, set Google alerts, read a lot, things that are funny and humorous. Careful, it's easy to mess up, but it can be powerful. You get it right. I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. I'm going to show you some examples, okay? First of all, this is what Bitly looks like. This shows you that on these particular links, you see Nikki Finke's Deadline, Hollywood Daily. I put a link to that. There was 25 people that clicked on it. A total of 39 people have clicked to that through Bitly, but 25 came from my particular link. And then you can see down there, Circo Monkey, Wastebasket, 16, 17, 12, etc. So again, Bitly is just a way to see how many people are actually clicking on your links. Don't do this, spamming. Only sending out self-promotional information. You can do a little bit of that, but don't overdo it. You can quickly, easily be unliked, unfollowed, etc. Reposting, posting the same thing over and over again, especially sales information. People hate that. They don't want to see the same thing from you over and over again. They just don't. Posting too often. Seriously, nobody wants to hear from you 15 times a day. Seriously, do you own a remodeling company? Seriously, nobody cares about you that much. They don't want to hear it. You'll have to get a feel for the right number. Irrelevant posts. People will unlike or unfollow you or drop you from mobile if they're not getting value. Okay, and I'll show you some examples. Here's some bad tweets from Tom Peters. Maybe you know who Tom Peters is, management guru, innovation guru. This is from last year, but you know what? These are some really bad tweets. Here's what she said. My wife broke her leg, fell totally in love with her Kindle 2. Great battery life. K2 has great for 5.5-hour waits in ER of a great hospital. And then he tweeted this. MA, Massachusetts, may install a healthcare plan where coverage is per patient problem, not per procedure. Bravo. We spent $750 billion unnecessary stuff. Okay. Meant unnecessary. Unnecessary, as in it appeared, is equals necessary, right? What? I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. Vermont fresh fruit and veggie season is upon us. Eat your heart out. Do I really care, Tom Peters, if Vermont fresh fruit and veggie season is upon us? I really don't. Don't tweet it. Don't care. This is one that Best Buy employees were being allowed to tweet. This was a really bad idea. At dinner with my Aurora alum sisters, a fabulous group of smart women, and I care about that. Why? Retailers depend on great customer relationships. Why they would do anything to purposely just jeopardize this relationship? What? There's nothing like the energy that comes from working with a fantastic group of professionals. Best Buy's PR team rocks. What? I don't care about that. Went to the PGA today, ran into some Best Buy peeps working hard volunteering for children's hospitals. Nice work, gang. Okay, you better not post something like that more than once a month or I'm going to get really tired of it really fast. No, but it's volunteering in a children's hospital. That's good. Okay, I understand that, but here's the truth. Nobody freaking cares. Not nobody and not zero care, but if you post stuff like that more than once a month, people are going to say, don't care, don't want to hear about it. Got enough in my life. Now, let me show you some good tweets. Now, remember, these could be Facebook posts too. This is from Zappos CEO Tony, the CEO of Zappos. At hotel, wondering why there are chirping crickets in my room. They're probably wondering why there's a human in their room. Okay, that's funny. Not hilarious, not Jerry Seinfeld, but it's just kind of an interesting, funny little observation. Later on, what most people need to learn in life is how to love people and use things instead of using people and loving things. Okay, little quote. The greatest obstacle to discovery is ignorance, not the illusion of knowledge. You don't really want to become known as a quote guy, though. You want to mix it up. Cool outfits that Zappos employees make completely out of duct tape. MacGyver would be jealous. And there's a link to it. Now, if you see that, are you a little bit curious as to what the duct tape outfit looks like? The answer is probably interesting article, 5 key ingredients in the search for happiness, and he gives an article link. Okay? He's mixed it up. We've got something interesting, a picture to look at. We've got an article to read. We've got sort of a interesting observation. This is a pretty good set of tweets, okay? Let's see, who was this? This is Mark Cuban. Success and motivation, what entrepreneurs should not do. I get daily pitches daily. I want all of you to understand. And then you read that and boom, you can see what entrepreneurs should not do. What entrepreneurs should not do, my latest blog. And then he did a retweet. This means that somebody else tweeted this and he forwarded it. Really good movie. Now I understand why Bobcat said it has humor in disturbing situations. So glad to get it at ht.net movies. Check out sneak previews of World's Greatest Dad with Robin Williams at 8 p.m. Great reviews, great movie. Okay, let me know what you think. So these are pretty good tweets. This is Bill Simmons. This is the sports guy. This is back when there was Brett Favre drama going on. New nickname for Brett Favre, VD. We can't get rid of him. Fun listening. Nick Collison 4, working on OKC Sports Radio, moron like a speedback. I love Collison now. Reread the Favre stuff in my 2006 Pilgrimage to Lambeau column. He's now a 2009 Viking crazy. Then another one, Favre saga not ringing endorsement for hanging out on the farm in Mississippi. Can't imagine how Pack fans feel. If Larry Bird had ever signed with the Lakers, it would have quickly gotten hooked on heroin. It's just a little bit funny. He's a content provider, and this is an outlet for his content. So, next example. This is some tweets that MYM put out there. I saw this on TV and couldn't believe it. Then my wife found this print ad. Could it get worse? You don't know what it is, but is it easy enough to click? Yes. Not sure if this is the funniest thing I've seen or the most appalling. I'm going to go with appalling. Catchy tune, though. And there's a little link there. Why was it, again, that realtors think that putting their mugshot all over town is a positive thing that would help their business? Wow, she's glamorous. She must be qualified to sell my home. What's that? She's never sold anything in her life? No, Amway doesn't count. Join my MYM Insider Call at 9 a.m. CST to find out how to innovate the real estate industry. Realtors best, not listen. Truth hurts. Just interesting information, okay? Now, let's do this. Let's create some tweets for a couple of industries. How about for Taco Bueno? I met with the CEO of Taco Bueno last year. This is a local chain here in the Dallas and Oklahoma, sort of mid-central Texas region. I think they've got a couple hundred stores, okay? So, the frequency, a couple times a day. The tone, a bit irreverent. This is going after their target market, which is younger men typically. Failed experiment in the kitchen. Turns out a guacamole was a horrible idea for a smoothie flavor. It's just supposed to be a little bit funny. 10 free tacos to the first person to shout "It's more bueno" audibly on tonight's Ranger telecast. They are a sponsor for the Texas Rangers. Just heard the Taco Bell Chihuahua died. I swear I was at church when it happened. Next time you spend $12 on fajitas, just remember that you're a freaking idiot. Why would you do such a thing? They've got lower priced fajitas there. Classic Taco Bueno commercial from 1982. Forget the hairstyles. What's the deal with that kid's face? Could you resist clicking that link? Answer, probably not. This is called interesting, relevant tweets or Facebook posts. Next, remodeling company. Frequency 2 to 5 times per week. Tone, informational. New stats out that show increase in home value for various remodeling projects. Link. For the 5th year in a row, new kitchen tops the list with a 94.3 immediate ROI. Bathroom second at 82.4. Just completed Johnson Kitchen remodel in Southlake. Check out the before and after photos and a link. Oops, another remodeling company bites the dust in the recession. Be careful. And then a link to an article about it. Check out Beyonce's newly remodeled home. We can all dream, right? And then a link to that article or website. See how this is interesting, relevant information? Not just, hey, if you want your kitchen remodeled, call us. Wondering what the most surprising energy-efficient appliances are? You might be surprised which brand is tops. Okay, informational. Your nerd will not figure this out, trust me. Let's create one for the bank. Now think to the 5 biggest mistakes bank that is a community service bank. Frequency, 2 to 5 times per week. Tone is fun and informational, but not irreverent. It's not appropriate for a bank. If you ever need copies or coffee, don't hesitate to stop in. Both are free all the time. Informational, fun. A guy just came in to make a copy and insisted on paying a quarter. Guess I'll stop by a gumball machine tonight. Not hilarious, laugh out loud funny, but a little bit of a chuckly funny, okay? Why other banks' pens have changed? They're really little pen prisoners. They don't want to escape. Free the pens. And this is, of course, talking about the hot button called treating you like a friend instead of, you know, an inmate. Come see the art show at our branch at 1709. That's the street. 27 local artist stuff on display. Amazing, really, come. Okay, seriously, I know donuts are free on Fridays, but try to limit yourself to 10 or fewer, letting people know that they have donuts and being a little bit funny in the process. Summary, start building your following. Think hard about who your target is. Decide on a tone and a frequency. Find or create good content. Send your tweets over for evaluation to MYM if you want us to look at it. I'd be happy to do that. Start building relationships, okay? Now, there's 4 things that we just talked about there. We talked about content. We talked about keywords. We talked about links. And we talked about social media. These are all things that are going to help your search engine optimization. Hopefully you understood and heard me loud and clear. The underlying theme here was real content, real links, real keywords, doing it real. The nerd's job is to set up your site the right way. The SEO company's job is to make sure that the things that you do real are going to be positioned in a way that the search engines are going to index and rank them well for you. Your job is to make sure that the content is good, that you're building good links, that you're focusing on the right keywords, that you're using keywords to drive the type of content that you create, and that your social media actually works so that it actually, has people interested in looking at it, okay? So all of that is today's webinar, but let me go over a few quick tips with you. Here's one, URL name. If you can put the name of what you do and your town name like the Grapevine Dentist, that's a great way to get automatic link juice, I guess you could call it, from the search engines. That's not always possible, but think about it. Update your site frequently. That's just a reiteration of things I've already talked about. Get customer reviews. We're going to talk about how to get customer reviews on Google Places or Yelp or Quality Guild or other areas in an upcoming webinar. Use keyword research for your pay-per-click, and we're going to have a webinar tomorrow on pay-per-click marketing. So the things that we've talked about today will also be relevant for that topic tomorrow. Use WordPress for blogging. We'll probably do a blogging webinar at some point in the future, so we'll cover that in more detail. Create videos. Google indexes the speech on the videos. I don't know if you knew that or not, but they can actually tell what's being said, and they index that. And just the last thing I want you to know is that you personally can affect your SEO. So with that being said, I will open this up to the masses for any questions that you have. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. And if you've got any questions, go ahead and type them into the little question box, and we will go from there. Anyone? Bueller? Now remember, I'm not a nerd. Don't ask me nerdy questions. Only ask me questions about non-nerd stuff. Any questions about SEO that you'd like to put on today's webinar? If not, we'll go ahead and end the webinar. Let's see. Anyone? Bueller? All right, I'm going to give it the old going twice. It always works. Okay, let's see. What about using WordPress for our main site? I'm going to withhold my opinion on that until I know more about that. I don't know, Russell. That's probably okay as far as I know right now, but as we get into that topic more specifically, I'll answer that a little bit later, okay? Any other questions? Bueller? Okay. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for participating. We'll continue our Internet marketing series tomorrow with a discussion on pay-per-click marketing, and then next Tuesday we'll get into our discussion on planning and creating your website. So thanks so much for being with me today. Enjoyed it. It's been an interesting, fun, enjoyable webinar. Talk to you later. Bye now.